What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday we did have the Nintendo Indie World Direct that showcased 19 different independent games, and we're going to go over all of those here today, as well as some of my personal highlights from the show. Also, we're going to be talking about some new gameplay details that have gotten out there through several patents for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, and we're also going to be going over a pretty funny but also shocking footnote in gaming history that's gotten out there from that Power On documentary series for Microsoft. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Hellblade 2. Had a very impressive showing at the Game Awards, but it left people wondering and even arguing, was that actual gameplay, or was that just a cinematic that was put together to make it look as good as possible? Well, looks like we have an answer to that one. We can see this over on Twitter. This is from David at Ninja Theory, saying everything in this demo is in-engine, real-time, no tricks. This is real. As such, not everything is perfect yet. Goes on a bit further, saying this is a piece of our game played by one member of our team. Hope this is more clear to you. So yeah, they went through a section in the game that they had set up specifically for the demo and just recorded it. Now, obviously some of it is scripted and it is designed to have those sweeping camera angles for a close-up of Senua, for example, at the right time. But yeah, Hellblade 2 looks visually impressive. I guess that's a compliment to the developer, Ninja Theory, if people are wondering if that's even possible in a game. Now, obviously, eventually we'll get this game in our hands, play it on our own systems at home, and there'll be plenty of comparisons made there. But after seeing what Ninja Theory was able to do on a budget for developing the original Hellblade, yeah, I think Hellblade 2 is going to look really, really impressive. We just need to find out a bit more as to when we'll be able to play it. Also, we had a bit of a surprise the other day. We had a game that people have been talking about for, I think, years now, just drop onto the PlayStation, the Xbox, and on PC, and that is Praey for the Gods. Now, you can see some of the trailer here. I saw some people talking about the title because it's spelled kind of strange. It's Praey. Apparently, there was a whole thing with Bethesda for this game because it was called Praey and they sort of misspelled it here, and that was just a way they could get around things. But this is a game that went into Kickstarter, I think, a while ago. It went quiet for a while, and it did have like its own beta or early access they put out there. They collected feedback from that, and here they are. Praey for the Gods, now out on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox, and PC. And from what I can tell, it's sort of like a Shadow of the Colossus-like inspired game. And yeah, I think I'm gonna pick this one up. I believe it's currently going for $30, and I'll be checking it out, and I'm sure giving some of my thoughts this weekend on the podcast. Oh, and we do know that Horizon Forbidden West is coming out towards the end of February, which has quickly become a very packed month for games. But it's coming out on the PS5 and the PlayStation 4, and while we have been seeing PS5 gameplay, there are some who are curious about how it's going to look on the PlayStation 4. Well, credit to Guerrilla, they're pretty transparent about this one, showing screenshots on Twitter, which we could see here, and yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. I know we're talking about it on the PS4 here, and a lot of people are excited about the possibilities of the PS5, but you have to remember, there are a lot of people who just can't get access to a PS5, so yeah, some will just be playing it on the PlayStation 4, and I'm not surprised to see how good it looks here through screenshots, even on what's considered a last-gen system at this time, because Guerrilla is very good at what they do here. And I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn looked great on the PS4 when it released, still looks good now. So yeah, I mean, there you go. We have some screenshots for the PlayStation 4 version, and they talked about several things that they had improved heavily for the PS5. I think they talked about like the water and several other parts of the game. But still, if you're picking up on the PS4, it's gonna look pretty good there too. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with that Indie World Direct from Nintendo. Like I said, 19 different games to go through, so we're just gonna get started right away on this one with what I think is my game of the show, and that's Sea of Stars. This is a very interesting looking isometric RPG. It's a prequel to The Messenger, and I really enjoyed The Messenger, so interesting that we're going to an RPG for the prequel as opposed to like a side-scrolling platformer. But this is coming out holiday 2022. I really like the art style that they have, and hey, I'm always up for a good RPG. I'll certainly be keeping this one on my radar. I think this is another one that was in like Kickstarter development, so people were really happy to hear that the game is finally coming out. Even though it's a year from now, it's better than having no release window or date or anything like that. Then we had Alicia, that's coming out spring 2022. Locomotive, this is a murder mystery point-and-click game. It takes place on a train, as you can expect from the title. That's coming out summer 2022. We have After Love EP, that's summer 2022. Dungeon Munchies, this was a shadow drop. It is now out. You can go check that one out on the eShop. Figment 2, it's a music puzzle adventure game. It's February 2022, has a demo that released during the show. Let's Play Oink Games is a collection of board games that is out now. We have Endling, Extinction is Forever. This one, I think, was one of the more unique looking games here at the show. You play as a mother fox, with the objective being to protect your cubs throughout the adventure that you have here. That's coming out spring 2022. Ollie Ollie World, we got a release date on that one, February 8th, 2022. I'm always up for different skateboarding games, and this one obviously looks very, very unique. Probably a callback to some of the older side-scrolling skateboarding games that we had. I remember I used to play like Tony Hawk on the Game Boy Color back in the day, and this kind of reminds me of that a bit, but even some open world, almost adventure RPG, almost a lot going on there. I'm sure I'll be talking about that when it releases. River City Girls 2, it's gonna have online co-op, looks great visually. It's from ArcSys. That's summer 2022. Parkosaurus, this is a park sim with dinosaurs. That's spring 2022. Don't Starve Together, that one's coming out spring 2022. Chicory, this is actually one of the best rated games of 2021. And they just dropped it on the Switch immediately during the show. So if you've been curious about that, there you go. You can check that one out. Baby Storm, that's January 21st, 2022. Grime, that's summer 2022. Gerda, A Flame in Winter 2022. Timeline, that is out now, and a demo is also available. Then we have Behind the Frame, that's spring 2022. And they closed out the show with that one more thing. And I'll admit, I'm not as up to speed on this game, but I know there is a long history, and it did release last Christmas, actually. And that is Omori. It's kind of an Earthbound-inspired kind of game, Undertale-ish, right? That was originally set for the 3DS, but, I mean, the 3DS is history now. So the Switch is now, right? So they just decided, all right, we're going to move this up to the Switch. They had announced it previously, but we now have at least a release window. That is coming out spring 2022, and people seemed extremely excited about this one to close things out, especially in like the live chat for Nintendo's Indie World presentation. And I think for the lineup of games, looking up and down the list, it was pretty good. I go into these Indie World showcases with lowered expectations than obviously would going into a full Nintendo Direct, or even like a Direct Mini, or even a partner showcase. Remember, these are smaller independent titles where they are really trying to be creative around different game ideas and mechanics, and I think there was a lot of unique titles here and ideas. And I think the biggest one for me is Sea of Stars right now. It looks great. I'm excited for that. River City Girls 2 brought a lot of excitement for people to get a sequel to River City Girls. And then closing out with Omori seemed to get people pretty excited as well. So I think here, a little bit of something for everyone, just nothing that was universal like, whoa, that is really cool to finally see Silksong in the release date. No, Nintendo's probably saving that one for a full Direct. They could even open the show with it and it would get people really hyped up. So maybe that's how we should start approaching something like Silksong. Not really something that would fit in with Indie World, more that would fit in as a massive highlight for a full Nintendo Direct. Next up, let's talk about an announcement yesterday that kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, we were expecting something from Ubisoft when it comes to Splinter Cell because there were all these rumors going around. We saw the trademark getting re-upped. So I was thinking, all right, maybe they'll have an announcement ready to go for Ubisoft Forward next E3. But it looks like yesterday they just dropped the video and press release announcing that they are remaking the original Splinter Cell. The one you may have played on the original Xbox, the GameCube, or the PS2, and they're bringing it up into their Snowdrop engine. Here's the press release that they put out on their website, saying Ubisoft has greenlit the development of a Splinter Cell remake that will draw from the rich canvas of the brand. Led by Ubisoft Toronto, the game will be rebuilt from the ground up using Ubisoft's own Snowdrop engine, the same engine being used to develop Avatar, as well as Ubisoft's upcoming Star Wars game to deliver new generation visuals and gameplay. and the dynamic lighting and shadows the series is known for. Now, just as a more modern example, a game you can play right now, Snowdrop is used for The Division. But Ubisoft Toronto just made Far Cry 6, and Far Cry 6, gameplay-wise, was fine. It just suffered from the same thing that these Ubisoft games tend to suffer from, and that is an open world that is fatigue-inducing. One that has so many points on it that it ends up feeling more like busy work than actually having fun in a video game, doing these tasks for the sake of just getting them done to get them done. Now, the thing that at least is good about this Splinter Cell remake is they went on record and said, no, this is not an open world game. We're gonna stick fairly close to the foundation that's been left here from the original Splinter Cell game. And great, they even talk about how they're gonna really look towards the stealth side of things for Splinter Cell. Also great because I feel like Splinter Cell leaned more and more into the action side of things and less into what made Splinter Cell so compelling back in the day. And yeah, that was all the cool gadgets and stuff that was all about being a spy and sort of stealthing your way through these impossible situations and giving you a lot of choice in how to accomplish all of this. So I said on the second channel, I did a longer video about all of this there. I'm cautiously optimistic because while I feel like Ubisoft Toronto is talented enough to do this, I don't know if I necessarily trust Ubisoft in general, the company, to pull this off without doing something annoying. Like, they're leaning into NFTs heavily. We see them monetizing single-player games that feel like they're set up to be monetized specifically. So I'm hoping they just follow along with the gameplay and the foundation that's been set from the original Splinter Cell with this remake. But then we have to start thinking about, okay, if this does well, where does Splinter Cell go from here? And how can Ubisoft fit that into their current business model, which is mostly, yes, fatigue-inducing open world games for the goal of monetizing things even further. Next up, let's talk about some gameplay elements that appear to have been highlighted through some new patents that were discovered online. They were recently published, and at that time, people start to notice them and then go through these different patents, and quite a few of these actually line up to the trailer that was shown for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Now, I will link down below to IGN, who has images and links to all of the different patents that were discovered, but we'll start with the first one here, which is unofficially being referred to as free-falling by the Zelda community. The patent describes a move performed by the player character, that being Link, that will cause him to perform a special action while moving through the air and shooting an arrow toward an object. So I guess more acrobatic moves, more, I guess, different things you can do freely while falling through the air. So that could, I'm sure, lead to all kinds of wild videos online from some pretty skilled players. Now, the other patent that was discovered from Nintendo appears to describe a mechanic that we saw Link do in the trailer, which was passing through some of those rocks in the trailer they showed off for Breath of the Wild 2 that had people a little surprised, and some give a bit of a reaction to that one. But you can see the image here just showing off the character freely going through a solid object. And I guess that could be one of the bigger gameplay elements they lean into here, and it appears that Breath of the Wild 2 has turned into something maybe even a bit larger than we were expecting. I mean, that trailer they showed off where we had Link just free falling through the air, Fortnite-esque, right? I think was trying to show that off, that they are going big with this title. And the idea of being able to just pass through solid objects, Lemillion-esque from My Hero Academia, could lead to all kinds of really interesting puzzles and traversal in the world. The final patent has been given the name Rewind by members of the Zelda community. We are just doing nicknames to patents here, it appears. And it does what you would expect it to do, and was also shown off in the trailer, where you're rewinding different items in the world. And yeah, I'm looking at this as having some, I'm sure, very, very compelling puzzles created around it. Now, in the patent, they seem to show an item that was moved from one end back to the other by rewinding time around it specifically. And if I remember right, that was something that was at least attempted to be demonstrated in the trailer. So the cool thing about this is these patents most likely lining up to stuff in the trailer. These could be some of the bigger gameplay elements and things that puzzles are built around in the game. But wow, be able to pass through like any solid object in the game within reason. You might have like a stamina meter, or it might be like, okay, you can't pass through this because it's too large. But that just continues to open up what I'd be more excited about, the overall free roaming and being able to traverse these different environments in different ways. And that's what made Breath of the Wild so exciting for a lot of people, was the massive world and the exploration around it and the interactivity with different things, as simple as cutting down a tree or setting a field on fire when lightning strikes. There was so much attention to detail there. And now we're hearing about all these gameplay mechanics matching up to patents, and whew, I mean, the sky's the limit here. I just want to see the game now and get that title finally, because apparently that title is going to reveal quite a bit about the direction of this game, and seeing this patent for things like reversing time does play into the theory that there is going to be quite a bit to do with the flow of time, and maybe that is what the title will refer to. But here's hoping we find out more about that going to 2022, because it's at least supposed to come out next year. And based on the scope and things that are being demonstrated here with these patents, to be honest, I wouldn't be shocked if it did end up moving into 2023. So here's hoping we find out more about Breath of the Wild 2 in the coming months, maybe with the first direct of the year. Is that a good way to finish out the show, with the title reveal for their next Legend of Zelda game? Here's hoping. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a new revelation that's come out from this Xbox Power On documentary series that pretty much follows the buildup of the Xbox brand itself, from within Microsoft to where it is now with the Xbox Series X and S and Halo Infinite and all of this. Well, there was one thing that was revealed that continues to prove that hindsight is indeed 2020. We'll take a look at this here. This was posted up by Games Radar, but you can see this story unfold in the third episode of that documentary series. Former head of third-party relationships, Kevin Backus, revealed that the company was originally approached by Rockstar about GTA 3. So think about that for a second. Back then, right? Rockstar just doing GTA on the PS1. It was this top-down 2D looking game. They come to you and they say, hey, we got an idea for this big 3D game in the Grand Theft Auto series. They go on to say this is ultimately what deterred a board of Xbox executives from accepting their pitch to put GTA 3 on the original Xbox. They felt that it was complicated. They didn't really understand the interface. They thought it was based on a game that hadn't been all that successful. To my surprise, it was rejected. Ooh, but it gets a little worse. And you might be thinking, well, how can it get worse than that? Well, this was recalled by Same as Blackley over on Twitter, saying Sam from Rockstar came and pitched. He was really excited about one game, a sure hit, and much less so about another, which he left to the end. That last 5 minutes was GTA 3. The exciting game he was pushing, Austin Powers. True story. Yeah, so, okay. Austin Powers apparently was the big push there. GTA 3 left on the sidelines, and GTA 3 went on to be signed by Sony for, it was like a time-limited exclusivity. It did find its way to Xbox later on, but think about it this way. It came out in 2001 on the PS2, before the original Xbox came out. GTA 3 could have been a launch title for that original Xbox next to Halo. That would have been a massive push, because GTA 3 was a major deal back then on the PS2. It went on to sell over 14 million copies. And I mean, at the time, the first year of the PS2, everyone was talking about Grand Theft Auto 3. It really made us see like these 3D games in a whole new light. And I mean, look where we are now with the franchise in general, Grand Theft Auto. That was a massive springboard for it. And Microsoft could have had it as a timed exclusive, yes, but certainly one that would have worked to push the Xbox even harder next to Halo. It just goes to show you, well, one, executives don't usually make the best choices when it comes to games, especially within Microsoft at that time. And two, hindsight continues to be 2020. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I said, give the Indie World presentation a grade. 6% said A, 20% said B, 42% said C, 12% D, and then 20% said F. I mean, looking at the lineup of games, there were some pretty good ones in there. I think like there were a lot of genres that were represented as well. I mean, a lot of people came out of that talking about an RPG like Sea of Stars or Omori, but Like we had like sports titles, technically like Ollie Ollie World. We had mystery games and we had beat 'em ups. And I don't know, there was a lot to really take away from that presentation. It probably came down to expectations. If you were going into that thinking, okay, Silksong should be here. Like I was really hopeful it would be. It wasn't, so that bit of a letdown there. I get it, but I don't know, there's just so many different titles. I feel like there was something for everyone there, and that's why I'm leaning more towards like a B overall for it. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Praey saying, I was going to finally play Yakuza 0. Can you download it and still play it after it leaves? This is something I've seen brought up many, many times. In fact, under that comment, some people were wondering, no, if the game leaves Game Pass, you technically lose your access to that game. It's one of the big drawbacks of these subscription services. One of the reasons I also bring up any games that are leaving the service, if they are like larger games. Obviously, if you see Yakuza games leaving, Xbox Game Pass should probably bring that up just in case anyone was hoping to play it. You can just buy the game, obviously. It's on the Xbox store. I think it's like $20 on there for Yakuza 0. Great game. I think worth $20, but yeah, the convenience of having the game there also gets kind of evened out at times when that convenience is taken away because the game leaves Game Pass. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike, leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was the Indie World presentation. Let me know what you thought of it and any of your favorite announcements there. Also, what about Microsoft turning down Rockstar's pitch for GTA 3 to make its debut on the original Xbox? How do you think that would have changed history? And then some of the gameplay mechanics we're seeing in these patents for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Is it getting you more and more excited for that big reveal we assume is going to happen next year? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.